Hey everyone, in this video I am going to be breaking down Mark Millar's ginormous crossover event called Big Game. Now I was covering this series as it was coming out issue by issue on my channel, but this video combines all the issues into one complete video. Now Big Game is a really ambitious project because it's a crossover event that encompasses all of Mark Millar's Millarworld titles. You can see here on this image, this is the supposed Millarworld reading order, and it all encapsulates in Big Game. So all of these different series are going to be connecting in Big Game. Now there are about 23 books here on this image. Some of them have multiple volumes, and I've covered about 15 of them. So check out my Mark Millar playlist if you want to really see some of these titles explored. Now, I think the most important books to know heading into Big Game are Wanted and Nemesis Reloaded. So be sure to watch my videos on those before Big Game if you want the most background context here. So yeah, I'm really excited for Big Game. Was really curious to see if Mark Millar is going to stick the landing, and I think he kind of does. I think this event is kind of a success, so that is fantastic news. At the end of this video, I will have a final thoughts section where I will break down my more complete thoughts, but I think this one is a good one, so let's dive into it now. Mark Millar's Big Game. Big Game, written by Mark Millar, art by Pepe Larraz, and colors by Giovanna Niro. Big Game, Issue 1. Big Game begins with a flashback back to 1986, to the characters from the Wanted book series. This is when the villains beat the heroes and made the world forget about them. We see an unknown hero lying on the ground. He is dying. Then we see the villains from Wanted there, standing over that hero. From left to right, they are Sucker, Mr. Rictus, the original killer. This is the person that was Wesley Gibson's dad. Wesley Gibson is the main character from the original Wanted book. There is the Imp, Fuckwit, the Fox, Shithead, and Dollmaster. Mr. Rictus is holding up a skeleton and he says, "I know what you're thinking. Your teammate with the magic ring should be here to relieve you from monitor duty soon, but he was early, I'm afraid. We got him as soon as he stepped out of the teleporter." So it seems like the villains here killed whomever the Green Lantern analog is in this world. Mr. Rictus then drops the bones of that ring-wielding hero to the ground. The villains, they then continue to mock the dying hero in front of them. They gloat about how they will now rule the world and make people forget that heroes even existed. We then jump to the current day now in 2023. Wesley Gibson, the son of the original killer and the lead character in the original Wanted series, is talking to Nemesis. This is sort of picking things up right where we left things off back in Nemesis Reloaded. On the TV in the background, we also see a scene from Jupiter's Legacy. I think the characters from Jupiter's Legacy were once real in this world, but now they have been resorted to just being purely fiction. They are just characters on a TV show, and the world doesn't know that they were ever more than just that. Wesley tells Nemesis, "My name is Wesley Gibson, and my father was a leader in this fraternity of super criminals. Once he died, I was trained to take his place. Now, I rule the world in his absence." Nemesis, who is supposed to be like, what if Batman was evil, asks Wesley what any of this has to do with him. Wesley tells him the heroes are starting to appear again. Space heroes, time travelers, billionaire playboys, super teams. We got rid of them for a long time, but now they're growing like weeds. It's only a matter of time before they discover the ruse we pulled and how we manipulate the world. Nemesis asks, well, who does he want him to kill? Wesley answers, if they leave this any longer, they'll be up against 1986 kind of numbers of heroes again. So, let's just kill everyone while we still can. We then jump over to Little Hampton Elementary School in small town America. Space hero Duke McQueen is talking to some school children. Duke McQueen comes from the book Starlight, which, by the way, I think is my favorite Mark Millar book. You gotta check that one out if you have not. Duke McQueen, he was a space hero who saved the universe. He came back to Earth, though, and no one believed him. Years went by and he grew old. He was an old man, but he was called back into action to save the universe a second time. He succeeded, and this time when he returned to Earth, people believed him because he came back on a spaceship and landed on the White House lawn. The school children there in the elementary school are asking Duke if he still has his old spaceship. Duke answers, "No, I drive a Ford Bronco now. It's easier on gas and less hassle to park." Duke's granddaughter is there in the school and she asks, "Was it hard saving an alien world and nobody believing it happened, Grandpa?" Duke answers, "It was. They looked at me like a whack job, but then when the aliens landed on the White House lawn, it made it all worthwhile, because the truth always finds its way to the surface in the end, no matter how deep they try to bury it." Duke saying that is probably alluding to the villains in Wanted burying the truth of the heroes of the past that used to exist. We then jump over to North Dakota. We see Edison Crane, the world's smartest man. He comes from the book Prodigy. He is looking at the excavation site of some old burial ground, inside of which appears to be the statue of some sort of big head. Edison believes it is extraterrestrial. He adds, "I've been funding digs all over the world, and every new find seems to rewrite the conventional wisdom. I don't know if anyone has been actively suppressing it, but reality and the official narrative are increasingly at odds." At that excavation site, Edison is introduced to a woman named Bobby Griffin. Bobby says, "I know you spend your spare time investigating the world's greatest mysteries, and you're absolutely right. There really is a group of individuals who make it their business to hide the truth from ordinary people, but the real story is so much more awful than you could imagine. Come with me and I'll fill in all the blanks." So who is this Bobby Griffin woman? She seems to know all about how the villains from Wanted made the world forget the heroes ever existed. She wants to tell Edison what she knows. In Korea, at the headquarters of the Ambassadors, we see the leader of the Ambassadors, Chun-hee Chung, codename Korea. She is from a book called The Ambassadors. Chun-hee is a genius who has cracked the code into how to give normal people superpowers. She has used this ability to start a superhero team with representatives from all over the world. She tries to find deserving individuals. People write her and make their case why they deserve superpowers. And then she picks those she thinks are deserving. She gives them powers and they join her team. She is still expanding her roster and trying to get representatives from many more countries. By the end of Ambassadors Volume 1, she has representatives from many countries, but had still not decided on a representative from America yet. Chun-hee is talking with the ambassador of India, Binu Bahati. They are discussing how finding an American ambassador has been challenging. Every candidate they've tested seems to be hated by one half of the country or the other. They wonder, since when did America become so dickish? They are remotely talking to a new ambassador from Pakistan named Ahmed Khan. Ahmed Khan is doing some superheroics. He is traveling to the scene of a railway tunnel collapse. He is going to try and rescue some workers that are supposedly trapped in there. When he arrives to the tunnels, he sees that the workers aren't trapped, they've been murdered. And Ahmed, he then gets zapped by some electricity and goes down. Nemesis is the one that zapped him. Nemesis picks up Ahmed's communication device and talks back to the ambassador headquarters. Nemesis tells them to come and get him. Elsewhere, Dave Lazowski, the main hero from Kick-Ass, is now an adult. He is 31 years old. Dave has retired from his crime-fighting ways for now. He is just living a normal life with his girlfriend. He hasn't worn his suit in almost a decade. However, Dave is writing an email on his laptop. He is writing to Chun-Hee, the leader of the ambassadors. Dave believes that he should be given superpowers. He should be the ambassador for America. He writes, "My name is Dave Lazowski, and 14 years ago I was the world's first superhero. I made myself a costume, grabbed a couple of sticks, and went out to protect my neighborhood as Kick-Ass. A lot has obviously happened since then, but I like to think I maybe inspired all these amazing people out there like the nightclub, and the Chrononauts, and your international rescue team, the Ambassadors. In fact, I've written to you a few times about joining the Ambassadors, but I know you're obviously swamped with submissions and it's not cool to nominate yourself. All I want to say is that nobody could want this more. I tried being a superhero when I didn't have any powers, so you can imagine how hard I'd work for a shot at the big time. I did a stint as a cop, a security guard, and even a short order chef, but nothing made me happier than being a real-life superhero. I'm older now, and I've had a lot of knocks, but if you could please just give me this one chance, I promise you will not be disappointed." As Dave is typing this, his girlfriend comes into the room. I think the girlfriend is named Valerie. She was Dave's girlfriend at the end of Kick-Ass 3. Valerie says, "Are they still on for IKEA tonight?" Dave, he thinks to himself, IKEA, are you kidding me? You should be out there making a difference, man. Dave tells his girlfriend, not tonight. He's just gonna go to bed and listen to some true crime podcasts. Elsewhere, back over to Edison Crane from Prodigy. He is being driven by this woman he met recently named Bobby Griffin. She tells Edison that he and Chun-Hee Chung have been on Wesley Gibson's radar for a long time now. The supervillains have controlled this world since 1986, and now people think it's always been like this. Robbed of the fantastic, no heroes in the skies. I'm the only one alive who even remembers the old days. Bobby pulls into what seems like a superhero headquarters of some sort, similar to maybe the Batcave. She explains, "This is the headquarters of the man who trained me. They found out who he was and destroyed his home, but they didn't know what he had down here. This is where I ran when they released the memory wipe, and I've been hiding down here since I was 19 years old." Edison asks, "Are you who I think you are?" Bobby answers, "That's right, Dr. Crane. I'm the last of the old school superheroes. Now I need you to help me fix this shit." And with that, we end issue 1 of Big Game. Big Game, issue 2. Corbin Quinn and Danny Riley, the time travelers from the book Chrononauts, are in their office, and they are visited by Edison Crane from Prodigy and the superhero in hiding we met last issue, Bobby Griffin. Edison and Bobby explain all about how heroes were real and the villains in 1986 got rid of them and made the world forget. Edison, he wants to use Corbin and Danny's time travel technology and travel to 1985 and see how the world looked then. See if this crazy story of the villains taking over and making the world forget is actually true. Corbin and Danny, they are a little skeptical, but they want to help. But they explain they haven't done any time traveling for 18 months. There's the environmental impact part of it, but also 5 minutes of time travel cost about $10 billion. So their time traveling has been put on a hiatus for budgetary reasons. Edison Crane, who is extremely wealthy from being the world's smartest man and running his various companies, said he has already transferred them the $10 billion they need to their bank account. Well, alright then, they're gonna do some time traveling. Corbin and Danny get into their chrono suits, and they also get some for Edison and Bobby, and they all prepare to jump back in time to 1985. They can only travel for about 5 minutes. They jump back in time, and they are in what seems like New York City, Times Square in 1985. Only we see a building that kind of looks like the Daily Planet from Superman comics, although the book does not explicitly show that that is what this is. Bobby explains to everyone, this city wasn't even called New York back then in the old days, and these offices here are where the world's greatest superhero used to work. This is where he used to dress up as an ordinary person and pretend he was just like you and me. She also points to a phone booth and says, and this is where he used to get changed for emergencies. All of a sudden, a giant robot spider-looking thing walks over them. It's the size of a building. It looks like it's going to do massive damage to the city. But then, a superhero that maybe Superman flies by and grabs the robot spider and flies it into space. Well, Edison Crane has seen the proof that he needed. They time traveled back to the current day to the Chrononauts headquarters. Edison, he says he is committed now to hammering out some attack plans on these villains. Only when they arrive back at Chrononauts headquarters, all of the staff there is dead. The 2 Chrononauts, Corbin Quinn and Danny Riley, as well as Edison Crane and Bobby Griffin, all 4 of them get pumped with bullets, and they die too. Apparently, a hit squad with high-powered machine guns and laser sights was waiting for them on orders from the fraternity. Over at the fraternity's headquarters in upstate New York, home of the villains from Wanted, Wesley Gibson is exercising. He is told that Alpha Team has successfully killed all 4 of their targets at the Chrononauts facility. Wesley is especially excited about them getting Bobby Griffin. They've been after her for 37 years. Wesley says that next, he wants Hit Girl killed. Hit Girl, aka Mindy McCready, is one of the main characters from the Kick-Ass books. She was a very young and effective vigilante, trained by her father, Damon McCready, aka Big Daddy, from an early age. She was trained to be a costumed superhero and assassin, and over her career she killed many villains. She was such a popular character she even got her own spin-off books from Kick-Ass. Hit Girl now is an adult woman, and the fraternity Hit Squad is camping out in front of a few comic stores in Hit Girl's hometown in Michigan, as apparently she likes to buy comics every Wednesday on New Comic Release Day, and they figure that this is a good way to take her down. As Hit Girl is driving her car, about to park and buy her comics and be shot at, in the backseat of her car is Special Agent Gary Eggsy Unwin. He is the main character from the Kingsman, the Secret Service books and movies. Gary tells her, I work for an independent British spy organization, and we just received intel about a number of high-profile assassinations being planned over the next 24 hours. The only one we were able to decode was you, and so I'm here to warn you. He warns her to not stop and continue driving on. Elsewhere, at the headquarters of the ambassadors in South Korea, their leader, Chun-hee Chung, aka Codename Korea, learns of their teammate, Ahmed Khan, aka Codename Pakistan, and how he is in trouble. A distress signal from him was picked up at an abandoned Siberian airport. The entire team comes together to save him. They get teleported to his location. They get teleported to that abandoned Siberian airport, and when they arrive, Nemesis is there waiting for them, and he has a giant sword in his hands. He greets them, Chun-Hee warns Nemesis not to hurt him, or she swears to God. Nemesis tells her, "You'll do nothing, Korea. Don't make threats you can't back up. Your powers are all artificially generated, and I've got a friend who can steal them for 5 minutes at a time. Can you guess who he's given them to?" Nemesis somehow stole every power that they had been given access to that was being stored at the Ambassador's Antarctic base, and he took those powers and somehow gave them to himself. The Ambassadors here have literally nothing to fight back with. Nemesis slices Chun-Hee, aka codename Korea, in half with his giant all-white sword. Nemesis then starts borrowing various powers from the Ambassador's power bank pool. He grabs one power and manages to knock them all back. When Yasmin of France asks Nemesis not to harm her son, Jean-Luc, Nemesis replies, "Do I look like I care?" He hits them with a heat blast power. He then tells the group, "Now, I know you're just a rescue squad and you never meant any harm, but you're still superheroes and my employers don't like that. Not after the old days." Nemesis borrows a Sub-Zero power and freezes them all. Then he downloads a Plasma Blast power, and he uses that to make them all crumble to pieces from their frozen Sub-Zero state. Nemesis has just killed all of the Ambassadors. Once Nemesis has wiped the floor with them, a fraternity hit squad arrives. Nemesis says that next they are going to go after the vampire kids. He's referring to the kids from Millar's nightclub book. Nemesis also says, "We need to have the president deliver a message to smoke out any hero we don't actually know about yet, too." When one of the hit squad members asks, "What about codename Pakistan here?" Nemesis replies, "Oh, I almost forgot about Pakistan. Clean this mess up too." Nemesis, with his white sword, sticks it through Ahmed Khan's body, killing him too as Nemesis smiles menacingly. And that is the end of issue 2. Big Game issue 3. We see the hero known as Huck from the book Huck. He is in the North Pole and he is trying to save a polar bear cub that got separated from its family. Huck has the cub in his backpack as he is running and jumping around trying to get home. Some of the villains in an aircraft are up above watching Huck go. They have orders to take him out, so they drop a nuke on him, and it appears to obliterate Huck, perhaps killing him. We now jump over to New Jersey, to the home of a wheelchair-bound teenager named Simon Pooney. Simon Pooney was the hero known as Superior from the book Superior. Simon, who was wheelchair-bound, sold his soul to a demon. In exchange, he became the fantastical hero known as Superior. Although at the end of that book, he ended up tricking the demon and getting his soul back, but in order to do that, he had to give up his superpowers. Visiting Simon in his home are two villains that are allied with Wesley Gibson. There is a female known as Jackie and a male known as Trey. Jackie and Trey are questioning Simon. They ask him about the nature of his powers. After hearing his story, Jackie asks Simon, "So you can't turn into a superhero again? You don't have special powers anymore?" Simon answers, "No, ma'am." Trey and Jackie go talk privately. Trey asks, "So, what do we do, Jackie? He can't hurt us. He's in a frickin' wheelchair." Jackie answers, "Yeah, but why take the risk, Trey? You know what I'm saying." Trey concedes. Good point. He then uses his abilities and makes Simon blow up into a whole bunch of flowers, taking him out as well. We now jump over to Philadelphia, and we see two teenage vampires from the book Nightclub. They are Danny Garcia and Amy Chen. They were told to meet at the top of this tall building in the city. Hold up, Easter egg alert. Let's go back a bit. Look at this ad here. It appears to be a political ad for what is, I believe, the candidate Jodie Christensen, who is the main character in the book American Jesus, thereby confirming that book takes place in this world as well. Continuing on now. When they arrive at the top of this building, two members of the fraternity are there. One of them is a man named Mr. Catry. He has control over anything electronic. His associate is a man named Mr. Steiner. He has something in his hands called an alchemy stick. It allows him to change the atomic structure of any non-organic material. Mr. Steiner uses his ability to turn the roof of the building into a swimming pool. The two teenage vampires, Amy Chen and Danny Garcia, fall into this pool. Some metal bars are then created over the pool water, so Amy and Danny can't escape. Now, normally, the nightclub group have a third member on their team, named Sam Huxley. Sam recently had a little bit of a falling out with Amy and Danny. Mr. Catry tells the kids in the pool, "We know you're vampires, by the way, and you've fallen out with the third member of this nightclub crew. But don't worry, we'll get little Sam later. In the meantime, what can we do to kill two vampires? How about we turn that pool into holy water?" Mr. Steiner, with the alchemy stick, does just that, and with the pool now holy water, Amy and Danny's vampire bodies die in that pool. We now jump over to Dave Lazowski, also known as Kick-Ass. Dave, he feels like he should really do something, be a hero again. Recently, President Joe Biden gave a national emergency broadcast. He asked for anyone who ever been a superhero to step up. Now, we know from last issue that this is all just an elaborate trap by Nemesis to lure any remaining heroes to their death. But Kick-Ass does not know that. When he heard that emergency broadcast asking for help, he felt the need to step up and heed that call. Dave put on his costume once again, he said goodbye to his girlfriend, and then he head out. As Dave is heading out as Kick-Ass, on the rooftop of the city, we see the Magic Order is watching what is happening down below. The Magic Order, from the book The Magic Order, are on the good side. They are wizards that live among the rest of society while secretly using their magic to protect the world from supernatural and magical threats. The leader of the Magic Order right now is Cordelia Moonstone. Cordelia Moonstone and the Magic Order seem to be aware of the fraternity and how they've been secretly ruling the world. Cordelia really wants to do something about this and step in and help them. She says, "These poor bastards, they're all gonna get murdered, and there's nothing we can do." An associate of hers named Charlie replies, "That's exactly right, Cordelia. There's nothing we can do. The Magic Order only exists to stop supernatural threats. If we get involved in earthly matters, the problem only comes back 10 times bigger." Cordelia to this responds, "It's just hard to stand back and watch this Wesley Gibson creep take down all these heroes like his dad did in the 80s. Charlie tells Cordelia, "Well, we just have to do what the Order did then and sit this one out. They'll get what's coming to them eventually. The bad guys always do." Over at the fraternity headquarters in upstate New York. From Kick-Ass, Hit Girl, Mindy McCready, and from Kingsman, Gary Eggsy Unwin, they are trying to secretly infiltrate the fraternity's HQ. As they are sneaking around, they see the fraternity unloading some of the Chrononauts technology. As they are walking around, Gary accidentally trips an alarm. All of a sudden, the fraternity's soldiers turn to them, and a firefight begins. Hit Girl and Gary begin unloading some bullets. They take many members of the fraternity down. Hit Girl sees the body of Danny Riley, one of the chrononauts. Danny still has his chrono suit on. Hit Girl grabs Danny. She feels like he could be their ticket out of this. All of a sudden, an entire squad of fraternity soldiers starts storming towards them. Gary gets shot in the head and dies. Eggsy is no more. Hit Girl, she continues to survive as she is fighting the fraternity off. Elsewhere in the building, we see the Fox talking with Wesley Gibson. The Fox tells Wesley, Hit Girl is here. Wesley replies, I can't believe our luck. She was the only one I was worried about finding, and now she just walks into the lion's den. Come on, let's go. As Wesley and the Fox approach Hit Girl, Wesley says aloud, I always wondered how we do against this bitch. Hold your fire! Mindy McCready, this is Wesley Gibson, the leader of the fraternity. I'm standing here with my associate, the Fox, and we want you to appreciate that there is no way out of this. After Wesley does some more gloating, he is ready to take Hit Girl down. Hit Girl starts frantically fiddling with Danny Riley's chrono suit. Just as Wesley fires a blast, Hit Girl manages to travel through time and escape. Wesley and his crew are initially confused about what happened. One of the soldiers asks, Where is she? Did you atomize them, sir? Wesley, he responds, Check the security footage, frame by frame. I want to know exactly what happened here. So, Hit Girl escaped by traveling through time. Where did she end up? Well, we see she has traveled to 65 million years ago. And she is face to face with a raptor that is charging at her. Big Game, Issue 4. As Hit Girl is facing down this raptor, she luckily gets saved as the raptor gets killed. The raptor was killed by a woman named Ain. Ain is from the book Empress. She is the daughter of King Morax and Queen Emporia. For those of you unfamiliar with that book, let me give a quick rundown. Empress was set 65 million years ago in the past, on Earth. Apparently, Earth 65 million years ago was ruled by a high-tech society, high-tech enough that space travel was a common occurrence. This society was ruled by the evil King Morax. King Morax's wife was named Emporia. Emporia initially married King Morax because she was promised riches and a better life, but over time she realized that King Morax was not a good man, and she feared for her children's lives. So, with the help of her personal guard named Dane Havelock, she escaped from King Morax's rule. After being on the run for a bit, King Morax eventually caught up with her. An epic showdown was had, and Emporia ended up killing King Morax. Now, the Empress book ended in a positive way with King Morax dead and seemingly a happy ending. However, it seems like, in Big Game here, Hit Girl has arrived at a time when King Morax was still alive, and Emporia and her children did not yet flee from him and are still under his good graces. Ain, who just killed the raptor and saved Hit Girl, tells her, Don't worry, peasant, I got him. Your life has been saved by Princess Ain. You may kneel now and accept my royal blessing. Hit Girl, holding Danny Riley's body, is confused. Ain, frustrated now, says, I said kneel and accept my blessing, woman. You stand in the presence of King Morax's daughter. Have you forgotten your manners? Hit Girl asks, What year is this? Hit Girl doesn't understand. She went back 65 million years ago, but How come there's people around? And how can Ain understand what she's saying? Ain points to her ear and says, "How does anyone communicate? My universal translator, of course. If it wasn't for these, we would never leave our homeworlds." As Ain is talking with Hit Girl, they are then joined by Dane Havelock, who is the personal guard to Ain's mother, the Empress Emporia. When Dane arrives, he knocks Hit Girl out, and then he says to Ain, "Your Highness, I'm so sorry. You just got so far ahead of our hunting party, and I only just caught up. Did she hurt you?" Ain replies, "Don't be ridiculous. How could anyone hurt me?" Dane asks, "Do you have any idea who she is?" Ain replies, "No, but I'm glad you only stunned her because my father will want to find out everything. I believe she rode in on that orange corpse to reach our great city, and it seems to be able to travel through time." They then collect Hit Girl and bring her back to their royal city. And what a royal city it is! Look at this thing and how ridiculously high-tech it is. And remember, this is supposed to be on Earth 65 million years ago. In the royal city at the court of King Morax, he is sitting on his throne with the Empress Emporia by his side. Ain and Dane Havelock arrive at the court in front of King Morax. They have brought Hit Girl with them, as well as the body of Danny Riley, still in his chrono suit. Ain, who still likes her father at this point in time, is happy to report into him that they found 2 time travelers while they were hunting, and she thinks that maybe they themselves can get access to the time stream. King Morax asks his daughter,
"Tell me more about these time travelers, Ain. Are they from the past or the future?"
Ain answers her father, "The future, father. I think the dead guy has some kind of time suit, and the woman used it to travel back here." King Morax has his sorcerer, Diabolos, inspect Hit Girl and this chrono suit. Diabolos answers, "The time machine is indeed wrapped around our dead friend. The woman has no abilities to speak of and used the last of the time suit's energy to escape from a dangerous situation." Diabolos, with his staff, somehow manages to peer into the world where Hit Girl comes from. Diabolos continues explaining to King Morax, "This future they came from is very interesting. It's your world, sire, but no longer governed by your greatness. A vast and sprawling disorganized mess, with access to temporal journeys, but defenses literally thousands of years behind our own. In fact, I see no traces of you anywhere." King Morax can't believe this. He says in anger,
"No longer under my laws? On my own world?"
Morax turns to Hit Girl and says,
"Take me there now, so I might dominate these curs."
Diabolos tells King Morax, but this is where my techno-sorcery can help. All I have to do is manipulate the city's power and transform it into the energy required. I'm sure I can have this chrono suit operational again." King Morax thinks this is good news. He no longer needs Hit Girl then. He orders,
"Well, then we have no more need for this strange, unpleasant woman. Take her away for execution."
Morax's daughter, Ain, starting to get a view into her dad being not such a great guy, is appalled by her dad's orders. She argues, "But Dad, she didn't come here to cause any trouble. He just said she was running away from something bad." The Empress Emporia takes her husband's side. She orders Dane Havelock, "Do as my husband says. His word is gospel on this world." Dane Havelock replies, "Your wish is my command, Empress." Dane puts Hit Girl in a vehicle and drives her far away. He is supposed to kill her, but instead, he unhandcuffs her and tells her he is letting her go. He is releasing her into the jungle. He knows that she didn't come here to hurt anyone. She just has to promise to never come back. He tells her, "Head east, and you'll find a settlement within 3 days. It won't exactly be luxurious, but if I give you my translator pin, you'll be able to... Hit Girl doesn't let Dane finish his sentence. She kicks him in the face, and then she steals his vehicle and drives off. As she is driving away, she tells him, "Sorry, sir. Not that I don't appreciate the offer, but there's people back home planning something bad, and I need to kill them before it's too late." Back over to King Morax. He is talking with Diabolos. He wants Diabolos to lead an invasion on the future. He orders him,
"Take as many of my ships as the Orange Corpse can carry, and come back home when you've crushed these ingrates. I've already conquered the outskirts of space. It's only right that time should be the next to fall."
In the royal city, many of King Morax's ships are preparing to depart to the future. Hit Girl has returned, and she stows away on one of these ships. She is planning on hitching a ride back to her own time. We jump back now to the present day in 2023. Out there on the ocean on a massive ship, we see all of the heroes have come together. These are all of the heroes that answered the president's call to action. Dave Lazowski, also known as Kick-Ass, he wanted to be here, but he got held up. Some of Dave's superhero friends are asking him what happened. Dave explains, "I missed my bus. Don't make me feel worse than I already do. I was heading for my bus when this old lady needed help, and then this big gang of teenagers chased me for 10 blocks. By the time I got to the rendezvous point, the helicopter was gone." We see some of the other heroes are talking. There's Duke McQueen from Starlight. He's talking with Sam Huxley from Nightclub. Duke asks, "Get any idea what this is all about, kid?" Sam answers, "Not a clue, Duke. All I know is that the president wanted every super on the planet at this meeting, so it has to be something really big." Duke responds, "The text said it was world-threatening, so I sent a distress call to some old friends. They'll hopefully be here to back us up if things get hairy." A few moments later, Nemesis walks out on that ship. He is looking really confident. Nemesis tells all of the heroes, "Can you feel that? That's an ultrasonic signal I just sent out to each of you individually. You guys must be in a lot of pain." This ultrasonic signal is messing with all of the heroes, and they're all rolling on the floor in this tremendous pain. Nemesis walks over to the teenaged vampire Sam Huxley of Nightclub. Nemesis removes his mask, and Sam burns in the sunlight. Nemesis then turns to Wesley Gibson and tells him, "All yours, sir." Wesley starts blasting all of the heroes away. Once most of these heroes are wiped out, Wesley and Nemesis begin walking away. Wesley tells Nemesis, "Ruling the world is easier than you think, Matthew. You just have to stand back and play the guys with the red baseball caps against the ladies with the purple hair. Give them a culture war and they'll never wage a class war. The money always stays in the same pockets." Nemesis asks, "I don't even know why you keep them around. Surely you can run all this with AI and a few million slaves." Wesley answers, "Yes, but where would the new innovation come from? There are some brilliant minds out there among all the dross. Thanks to Chun-Hee Chung's new technology, we can live forever. Thanks to the chrononauts, we can travel through time. Who knows what the sheep might give us next?" Cordelia Moonstone and some members of the Magic Order are somehow on this ship by Wesley. They are invisibly perceiving him. Cordelia Moonstone is fuming. She says, "Screw this prick. I'm doing it, Charlie. I'm taking this guy out right now." Once again, the other members of the Magic Order tell Cordelia to not talk crazy. She knows better than anyone what happens to the world when they break the rules. The Magic Order has to sit through wars and famines and anything else that isn't a supernatural threat. Cordelia hates this, and she holds her head in frustration. Later on, Wesley Gibson is talking to the Fox. He is a little worried about Hit Girl being on the loose. He knows she only has the power for a single time jump, but she's a clever little bitch. You never know what she might be able to pull off. The fox tells Wesley not to worry, he's won. Wesley asks, so why do I feel this knot in my stomach? All of a sudden, a big portal opens in the sky by the ship. It is King Morax's fleet from 65 million years ago, now arriving in the year 2023. King Morax's fleet flood the skies. Diabolos, leading this invasion, has dead Danny Riley and his Chronos suit hooked up to some cables. Diabolos then answers Wesley's question. Why does he feel a knot in his stomach? Diabolos answers, because you know how all this ends. And with this, we end issue 4 of Big Game. All that is left now is the conclusion, the final issue. Big Game Issue 5, the conclusion. King Morax's armies, led by Diabolos the Sorcerer, have arrived on Earth in the present day. Diabolos broadcasts a message all across Earth. He says, "Attention, slaves! This is Diabolos the Sorcerer. I have journeyed millions of years through time to lay claim to this world on behalf of King Morax. I seek an audience with your planet's ruler." Wesley Gibson casually walks out smoking a cigarette and answers, "Here." Diabolos greets him saying, Wesley Gibson, the secret Lord of Earth. Not the little presidents and kings who do your bidding, the world's one true master." Wesley Gibson asks him, "And you are?" Diabolos introduces himself and explains how he came from the past to dominate the future on behalf of his king, King Morax. Diabolos, using his techno-sorcery, is able to read exactly how this world is set up. He understands how Wesley and his group, the Fraternity, are all criminals that have powers and they secretly rule from the shadows. Diabolos can even read Wesley and some of his past. He says, "I can see the old you in there, Wesley Gibson. An office drone working in a cubicle, a nobody scared of his own reflection. But everything soft has been beaten from you now. You have a heart of steel that has been forged in fury and a delight in death that would make even your father quiver." Wesley tells Diabolos, "Look, I don't want to fight you any more than you do, Diabolos. I know we can win, but losses are inevitable, and I propose a truce instead. You've got a time machine that can take us anywhere. Why don't we go back and murder your king you worked for?" Diabolos seems loyal to his king. He replies, "Oh friend, I'm feared across the galaxy, but do you know how much I'm going to be punished just for letting you say those words out loud?" As the two of them are having this parley, Hit Girl manages to sneak around them and get right over to Danny Riley and the Chrononaut time machine. She then takes off and sets course for 3 days in the past. For those of you that were maybe predicting time travel shenanigans would get the heroes out of this mess, just know that you are completely right. Hit Girl travels 72 hours in the past, to the exact moment when Edison Crane, Bobby Griffin, Danny Riley, and Corbin Quinn were moments away from exiting the time machine from their time traveling they were doing. Way back in issue 2 when they left the time machine, they were slaughtered by the Fraternity's forces, who were waiting to ambush them. But now, Hit Girl kills those Fraternity forces, and Edison, Bobby, Danny, and Corbin are saved. Hit Girl then explains the situation to them. She explains how she time traveled and how every superhero on the planet is about to be assassinated, but she saved them first so that they could get in touch and warn everyone else what's about to happen. Danny Riley is distracted as he is staring at his dead body hooked up to some cables, which is somehow being used as the conduit to power this time machine. Danny, looking at his dead body, asks the others, "Couldn't we at least put a bag over his head?" Some of the other deaths now get reversed. Huck, instead of being killed by a nuclear bomb being dropped in the North Pole, Instead, with a heads up, he gets the jump on the fighter pilot that was attacking him, and he takes that fraternity pilot down. Over in Philadelphia, the nightclub members Amy Chen and Danny Garcia are also saved from their fate of being killed in holy water. Over in Siberia, we go back to when Nemesis was going to kill all of the members of the ambassadors. Nemesis gloats to the ambassadors. Your powers are all artificially generated, and I've got a friend who can steal them for 5 minutes at a time. Can you guess who he's given them to? Now, originally, those powers went to Nemesis, and he killed all of these ambassadors, but now those powers did not, and the ambassadors are still powered up. Chun-Hee Chung punches Nemesis in the face. Yasmin Goven of France takes the Sub-Zero power and freezes Nemesis. Bob Taylor of Australia takes a Plasma Blast power and blasts Nemesis. Jamie McPhail of the United Kingdom, Scotland specifically, kicks Nemesis in the balls. When the rest of the fraternity's soldiers show up with guns, the ambassadors put a force field around themselves. They then blow up the force field and take all of the fraternity soldiers here down. The ambassadors then tell Nemesis, "A little bird warned us what you were up to, Nemesis. Now we're all heading back for a word with your boss." And then they all go back to that ship that we saw in issue 4, where all of the heroes were meeting due to the president's orders. Instead of all being ceremoniously killed, they all now march triumphantly, ready to face Wesley Gibson and whatever forces he has left. Duke McQueen, through a radio device, he calls out to someone saying, "Duke McQueen to General Tilda Starr, did you get my distress call earlier?" She did. We see Tilda Starr, who was a character from Starlight, as well as Krish Moore, another character from Starlight. They have come to help Duke McQueen and provide some backup. Tilda Starr responds to Duke saying, "Loud and clear, McQueen. A pleasure to hear your voice again after all these years." So now, on that big boat there, just a little bit offshore, we have all of the heroes that are now returned from the dead due to some time travel shenanigans. We have Wesley Gibson and some of his fraternity members, and we also have Diabolos the Sorcerer and his armies from the past, from 65 million years ago. Diabolos and Wesley Gibson's fraternity seem to have formed a temporary alliance against the heroes. Chun-Hee Chung, now in front of Wesley, has Nemesis with her, and she drops Nemesis on the floor and tells Wesley, "One of yours, I believe?" Wesley responds, specifically focusing on Bobby Griffin, and he says, "Is this your team now, Bobby? The fraternity took down legends in the old days. These new guys hardly measure up, but thanks for getting them all in one place. You might have disrupted all the little traps, but it looks like we get them in the end. This guy is Diabolos the Sorcerer, and he came here to conquer us, but we're putting our differences aside until you assholes are in the ground." Edison Crane tells Wesley, "Your cover's blown, Gibson. Everyone in the world can now see what you and your friends have been up to." So, news of the events here have been broadcast around the world thanks to Edison Crane. And this secret society of the fraternity that ruled the world is no longer a secret anymore. Wesley tells Edison, "Who cares? We made the world forget before, we can wipe their minds all over again. My generation never got our big battle, so this should be a lot of fun. I'm gonna kill Bobby first, by the way. The bitch my old man missed." The epic Avengers Endgame style battle begins. They all start running towards one another. I specifically was drawn to this army guy on a raptor. That's pretty cool. Over in Central Park, Kick-Ass is a little bummed. He did not get a chance to get over to that ship and take part in the epic fighting. So while Kick-Ass is feeling down about himself, Cordelia Moonstone walks over to him and asks, "You okay, Kick-Ass?" Kick-Ass responds, "I'm fine, I'm sorry, just my friends are in this fight and I'm really worried they're gonna get killed out there. I know it sounds weird, but I feel kinda responsible for all this, like, wanting a world with superheroes so much has made all this shit happen. Does that sound crazy? Cordelia responds, "No, I think this really could be your fault in many ways. It's just the way magic works. You started all this with the best intentions and only ever wanted to help. But you bent probability when you pulled on that mask, and now things have escalated to the point where you were facing an alien threat through the time barrier." Kick-Ass asks, "I'm sorry, do we know each other?" Cordelia answers, "I'm Cordelia Moonstone, and I know exactly how you're feeling right now, dude. I'm the leader of a group called the Magic Order, but the rules mean we're forced to stand aside too, and it's not a magical situation. Our team's job is to save the world, but only when the threats are monsters and supernatural entities. We're not allowed to step in when it's situations like this, or the repercussions end up 10 times worse. Now that scumbag Wesley Gibson is going to get to rule the world again, just like his dad did. Is that fair in any way, shape, or form?" Kick-Ass, hearing what Cordelia has said, tells her, "Yeah, but there is a magical threat." Cordelia asks, "What?" Kick-Ass continues, "Yeah, Wesley Gibson formed a pact with a guy named Diabolos the Sorcerer. It's all over the internet." Kick-Ass shows Cordelia his phone. Cordelia is thinking about it. She says, "Yeah, but he isn't using like real magic. This is superheroes versus alien energy. He's only a wizard in the loosest sense." Kick-Ass tells her, "He's literally called Diabolos the Sorcerer, Cordelia. Are we really going to argue over semantics?" Cordelia's kind of convinced. Maybe this would cross the line where they can intervene. Cordelia asks, "Do you think we'll get away with this?" Kick-Ass answers, "Who's gonna stop you?" Cordelia turns to her team that are nearby and she asks them, "Are you guys game?" The members of the Magic Order are indeed now game. They are finally going to intervene. Cordelia is thinking about the situation they are in, where this gang of supers is going to get the shit kicked out of them by forces twice their size in the form of Wesley and this Diabolos the Sorcerer. What can she do to even those odds? Cordelia and the Magic Order then come up with a plan. They start pointing their wands in the sky. Cordelia explains, "Everything we need is just one dimension sideways. Let's open the door and let a little color in here." Cordelia sends a message, a cry for help, to a dimension that is just sideways from them. A dimension where heroes exist and flourish. The heroes of this dimension, hearing this cry for help, answer, and they begin arriving through the portal. And we see many heroes that we recognize. There is Superior, and there is many characters from the world of Jupiter's Legacy. We see Sheldon Sampson, the Utopian, Grace Sampson, Lady Liberty, Chloe Sampson, Lady Liberty 2, George Hutchins, Skyfox, Eddie Hutchins, Skyfox 2, with his signature overpowered power rod, Jason Hutchins, Walter Sampson Brainwave, and so many more characters. So these heroes all arrive through the portal and begin fighting. Kick-Ass, he is so moved by this. He removes his mask and a tear rolls down his face. He says, "Oh my god, these are the superheroes from the comic books I used to read, showing up just when we needed them. I can't believe they're real." Cordelia tells Kick-Ass, "Of course they're real. Everything's out there somewhere, but if I'm bending the rules a little already, I might as well have some fun, too." Cordelia uses her magic wand and gives Kick-Ass some powers of his own. She tells him, "You're a really good person, Dave. It's about time you had a lucky break. I've given you a super suit like the ones the ambassadors use. Now go and do what you were born to do." Kick-Ass then starts flying, and he heads over to the ship to join the battle. Here is a double-page splash page of all the action going down. The artist, Pepe Larraz, really killing it on this page. Amazing. We got Kick-Ass flying and shooting green energy from his wrists, Superior punching that fraternity member Trey, Duke McQueen swinging his sword at the Fox, Diabolos the Sorcerer riding a T-Rex, the Utopian firing lasers out of his eyes, backed up by Lady Liberty, the Flare, and Blue Bolt. Wesley Gibson, still fighting back. He says, "Enough screwing around!" He pulls out a gun and he shoots Hit Girl right through her head, killing her. Bobby Griffin, she yells out, "Hit Girl!" Wesley then goes over to Bobby and he kicks her in the face, and he then starts gloating to her. He tells her, "I used to be soft like you old school heroes, but they burned that shit out of me, and now I've conquered all my fears. I'm finally the guy I always wanted to be, and if I die here now, so be it. At least I get to die a man." But then, all of a sudden, a second Hit Girl shoots Wesley right through his head, and she tells him, "No, you're still a fucking pussy." Wesley Gibson is no more. Finally, that asshole is dead. Now, why were there two Hit Girls? It's because one of them traveled back in time, but the original one was still on their original timeline, so there were two of them here at the same place in the same time. Time travel shenanigans, I'm not really sure if it makes sense, but that's what happened, let's just go with it. Moving on. Diabolos the Sorcerer is battling the Magic Order, but he is no match for them. The combined forces of the Magic Order with their wands managed to make Diabolos explode in a burst of energy. With Wesley Gibson and Diabolos now dead, eventually the Fraternity and Diabolos' army are forced to surrender and give up. Eventually, a question is posed. Where the hell are they supposed to lock all of these aliens and supervillains up? From Jupiter's Legacy, Eddie Hutchins, also known as Hutch, he offers a solution. He says, "Oh, Lady Liberty and I can take them back to our dimension if you like. We've been dealing with this shit for years." Housing supervillains and aliens is not a problem for them. With the fighting now over, we see some of the aftermath of the battle. Duke McQueen from Starlight hugs his old friend, Krish Moore. He tells him, "Krish, look at the size of you, kid. You must be 6'2". Krish responds, "It's so good to see you again, Captain McQueen. I'm just glad that we got to help you out for a change." We see the three members of the nightclub talking. Amy and Danny talk to Sam, who they're a little bit on the outs with. Danny tells Sam, "Sam, holy shit! I saw you taking down that big ship. That was the greatest thing I ever saw in my life. You okay, by the way? Amy and me have been trying to message you for weeks." Sam tells Danny, "Oh, screw off, Danny. Seriously, we're not gonna do this here." So it appears Mark Millar is leaving this lingering plot thread open still of Sam being on the outs with Amy and Danny. This is something he must mean to resolve in Nightclub Volume 2. We then have some characters from Sharky the Bounty Hunter show up. There is the Bounty Hunter, Sharky, and his partner, Extra Billy. They have come here from space to collect Diabolos the Sorcerer. They offer to take him off their hands. Chun-Hee asks, "What are you planning to do with him?" Sharky answers, "Collect the bounty, little lady. Diabolos disappeared 65 million years ago, but he's still one of the most sought-after bad guys in the 18 quadrants. We actually came here looking for a couple of bandits who robbed the richest woman in the universe, but this ain't a bad little haul in the meantime." Those bandits that Sharky was referring to were two characters from the book Space Bandits. We see these two characters now. They are on an island called Ibiza, just off the coast of Spain. They are Cody Blue and Thina Cole. And I just thought this was kind of funny. Mark Millar, when he wrote the dialogue between these two characters, he made the characters say each other's full name, which is not really something one would do in natural conversation. So the girl Thina says, "Are you seeing what I'm seeing, Cody Blue?" And Cody responds, "You bet I am, Thina Cole. And something tells me you and I should get our asses out here as soon as we finish these drinks." Anyway, after those short cameo appearances, we jump back to Bobby, Edison Crane, and Chun-Hee Chung. Edison tells Bobby, "You saved the whole world, Bobby. Just like the old days, you should be very proud of what you accomplished here." Chun-Hee offers Bobby a spot representing America in the ambassadors, if she wants it. Bobby responds, "I've had too much excitement for one lifetime. I'm gonna enjoy my nice, boring secret identity for a while." But if you're looking for someone qualified, I can't think of anyone better than Dave Lazowski. I've been monitoring these new heroes for the past few years, and he's never failed to impress. He wants to be a superhero with all his heart. There's nobody out there who would give it more. Chun-Hee, listening to Bobby, decides to offer Dave a spot as the American ambassador. And later on, we see the ceremony where he is introduced to the world. Dave, dressed in a full America outfit, waves to the crowd. And honestly, I think Kick-Ass joining the ambassadors and finally getting some powers is some real fan service we can all appreciate. After the ceremony, Chun-Hee Chung and Edison Crane are talking. Chun-Hee asks, "How's the world's most dangerous supervillain doing?" She is referring to Nemesis, who is still alive. Edison answers, "Getting better, unfortunately. He's been paralyzed from the neck down, but he swears he'll be walking again inside 6 months. He said he'll be back to full physical fitness, rebuild his entire fortune, and burn the world down by Christmas next year. I'm also told he's putting together a hit list for when he's better, and there's already 4,235 people he wants to murder, and it's going up every day." Chun-Hee says, "This guy's a psychopath, Edison." Edison answers, "Yeah, I say we double his security just to be on the safe side." We then see 65 million years ago. King Morax was waiting for Diabolos to return, although Diabolos never came. King Morax asks,
"I wonder how Diabolos is getting on out there."
In the present day, once again, over in Maine, we see Huck is reading a newspaper to an old man, and they are talking about this crazy new wonderful world they live in. And we also see Bobby Griffin in that library, in her secret identity. She is working as a librarian. We then jump to the afterworld, to a place called Adistria. In Mark Millar's book Reborn, he introduced this premise that when someone dies, they get reborn into this new world and live a second life. And this reborn world, this Adistria, is a world full of magical characters and fairies and all sorts of fantastical things. Wesley Gibson, who is dead now, is now reborn in this new world, in this Adistria, and he wakes up. He is in a field of grass. He is very confused. When he gets up, he sees all sorts of fantastical creatures around him. He then murmurs to himself, "What the hell? Last thing I remember is Hit Girl blindsiding me from behind when I was just about to kill that Griffin bitch. What's going on? Where am I?" Wesley looks around and sees little gnomes, and he asks, "You guys frickin' gnomes?" All of a sudden, Wesley Gibson's head is sliced off. He is killed again, immediately. He was killed by the main hero in the Reborn book, Bonnie Black. Bonnie is with her dad, Tom, and her pet, Roy Boy. Tom asks, "What was that about, Bonnie?" Bonnie answers, "I don't know, Dad. I just didn't like the look of him." The three of them then walk on. Bonnie, she says, "Come on, Roy Boy, let's go get some lunch." And with Wesley dead again and magical creatures inspecting his body, we end Big Game and this epic crossover event. Alright, so that was Big Game. Let me go through my thoughts on this one. Firstly, the artwork by Pepe Larraz was amazing. Some of these double-page splash pages with these battle scenes were so good. Overall, I think Big Game was a success. It was such an ambitious project to try to tie in these 20 plus titles that didn't really seem connected in the same universe, and all of a sudden connecting them in one story, and also somehow keeping the story coherent, exciting, with multiple payoffs, lots of Easter eggs, lots of great stuff. So, really, it's kind of a triumph that I think Millar pulled it off. Now, is it perfect? No, I got some issues here and there, but overall, a success. Now, initially, we have Nemesis and Wanted crew teaming up and trying to take down all the world's heroes. And the brutal deaths come quick, and there's maybe not much of a build-up. It's kind of just brutal death after brutal death. And I gotta say, it was really exciting. So some of the characters that died throughout the course of this series were the Ambassadors, the Chrononauts, Edison Crane, Bobby Griffin, Huck, Superior, Nightclub, also Gary from Kingsman, and many more characters. So all of these brutal deaths coming. Now, as I was reading the series, I did predict that Millar was probably going to reverse this at some point at the end. Now, mind you, I think some of these character deaths are going to be reversed by the time this series ends. I can't believe Millar would kill this many characters off. But, we shall see. We shall see. And sure enough, he did. He reversed it with some time travel shenanigans. Now, is that cheap to do that? Maybe. Probably. I'll probably dock some points on my overall score for this series because it is a little cheap to do that. But still, it does give you the exciting deaths throughout, and then you can reverse it at the end, so I guess you gotta do it. I don't know. Still fun, though. Now, I love some of my favorite characters from the Millarverse coming into this series. So, Huck, Duke McQueen showing up, great stuff. Kick-Ass got some great moments in here, the Magic Order, some surprise tie-ins from books maybe I wasn't expecting, like Empress and Reborn. So I loved that this touched on everything. Now, some of my favorite moments in this series are when the Magic Order finally stepped in and they opened the Sideways universe and the Jupiter's Legacy characters came in. Amazing. Loved it. Loved seeing all the Jupiter's Legacy people in here. I was not thinking that was going to happen. I thought they were just going to be characters that existed in the past, but to have them come into the story was great. Now, Kick-Ass is probably one of Millar's most popular properties due to the movies on him, and I thought there were some great fan service moments with him. When he finally gets powers in the end, and he joins the Ambassadors as the representative for America, that was great stuff. Now, Wesley Gibson, I really liked that he was killed off at the end of this series. So Wesley in the original Wanted book was a despicable character. And he was the main character and supposed to be kind of the character we root for in Wanted, but yet he was raping people and killing civilians for fun, so he's a character you just hate. And I love that he got killed in this series by Hit Girl, and I love that he wakes up in this Reborn world and gets killed again. Now, tying into the Reborn book is something some people may not know the reference to. Maybe they haven't read Reborn, but when if you have read Reborn, that is a really fun fan service moment to have Wesley wake up there and get killed again. So that was great stuff. Nemesis was a really solid villain, and they keeping him alive here, and they can maybe bring him back in the future. So I understand keeping Nemesis within the Millar world for now. Maybe he'll show up again in the future, so that's fine with me. Overall, I think this book succeeded. It had an exciting story. It had some good payoffs, a good beginning, middle, and end. Was it perfect? No, but overall, it was a success and some really great stuff. I'm going to give this series an 8.5 out of 10. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching. And right now, I'm covering Brian Michael Bendis' Daredevil run on my channel, so check out those videos if you have not. I think it is the best Daredevil run in history, so please watch those if you are interested in them. And I will see you all again in the future.